Listen to me. You were not created to be a copy. You were created to be an original. Too many of you are wasting your life trying to fit into somebody else's mold. You're chasing somebody else's dream, mimicking somebody else's style, living somebody else's life. And in the process, you're losing yourself. You've got to understand something. The world doesn't need another copy. The world doesn't need another second version of somebody else. The world needs the first version of you. There's power in being authentic. There's power in being real. And there's power in being the original. Stop being a copy. Stop living somebody else's dream. The world doesn't need another version of them. It needs the original you. Be bold enough to be yourself, brave enough to be authentic, and strong enough to walk your own path. Remember, copies fade, but originals last forever. Listen to me. You are one of one. Out of billions of people who walk this planet, there is not a single other human being exactly like you and being exactly like you. Your fingerprint is not duplicated. Your voice cannot be cloned. Your experiences, your thought process, your spirit, your essence, no one else has it. That means you already came into this world valuable. You don't have to earn uniqueness. You don't have to qualify for originality. You were born with it. But the problem is, most people spend their entire lives running away from who they are, trying to be someone they are not. They take the very thing that makes them powerful, their individuality, and they bury it under layers of comparison, fear, and imitation. You are not here to be a carbon copy. You are not here to walk through life repeating someone else's blueprint. You got your own DNA, your own rhythm, your own cadence. Yet so many of us waste years chasing someone else's lane. We scroll on social media and start thinking, I should dress like them. I should sound like them. I should act like them. We look at successful people and start saying, if I could just copy their formula, I could win too. But let me tell you something. It doesn't work like that. The reason they're successful is because they tapped into their originality. They didn't try to be somebody else. They leaned into their uniqueness. And if you want to be great, you got to do the same. The world does not celebrate copies. Think about it. Nobody pays big money for a knockoff. Nobody brags about having a fake version. Nobody respects the imitation. People honor the original because the original is rare, it's authentic, it carries the weight of being one of one. When you try to be somebody else, you diminish your own value. You go from being priceless to being replaceable. And that's the tragedy. So many people with infinite potential lower themselves to the level of a cheap imitation just because they're scared to embrace their uniqueness. I need you to stop running from yourself. You have a personality, style, a perspective that the world has never seen before. You have a way of thinking, a way of solving problems, a way of communicating that nobody else can replicate. Even if someone tried to copy you, they couldn't get it exactly right. And that's your power. That's your edge. That's the reason you are valuable. But you've got to believe it. You've got to own it. You've got to stop apologizing for being you. Too many people water themselves down. They silence their voice. They hide their creativity. They dim their light because they're afraid of standing out. They think blending in is safe, but let me tell you something. Blending in is dangerous. When you blend in, you become invisible. You become forgettable. You become just another face in the crowd. But when you stand up and own your originality, you become unforgettable. You become the name people remember, the voice that stands out, the one who shifts the atmosphere when you walk into the room. Think about history. Every great innovator, every great leader, every great artist, they weren't copies, they were originals. Steve Jobs didn't try to be Bill Gates. Muhammad Ali didn't try to fight like Joe Louis. Maya Angelou didn't try to write like anybody else. They leaned into their originality. And because they were bold enough to be themselves, they changed the game. They left a mark that time cannot erase. You gotta ask yourself, am I bold enough to be me? Or am I wasting my life trying to be somebody else? Listen to me carefully. Being original doesn't mean you're perfect. It doesn't mean you won't make mistakes. It doesn't mean people will always understand you. In fact, the more original you are, the more people will misunderstand you. But originality isn't about being flawless. It's about being authentic. It's about showing up fully as yourself, flaws and all, and saying, this is who I am. This is what I bring to the table. This is my truth. And when you live like that, you inspire others to do the same. Some of you are carrying guilt because you don't fit in. You feel like you're weird, you feel like you're different, you feel like you don't belong. But let me tell you, that's not a weakness, that's your strength. The fact that you don't fit in means you were never designed to. You weren't created to blend with the crowd. You were created to stand apart. Don't be ashamed of your differences. Don't hide the parts of you that make you unique. That's your power. That's your identity. That's the original you. Understand this, the world needs you. Not the fake version, not the filtered version, not the watered down version, the real you. Somebody out there is waiting for your originality. Somebody's waiting for your story, your perspective, your creativity, your solution. And if you spend your life trying to be a copy, you'll rob the world of the gift that only you can give. That's why it's dangerous to imitate. That's why it's tragic to copy. Because when you copy, you kill your contribution. You silence your voice, you hide your gift, and you deny the world the blessing of your originality. So here's what I need you to do. Embrace it. Embrace your quirks, your differences, your unique path. Don't run from your originality, run toward it. Don't try to erase what makes you different, highlight it. Don't silence your voice, amplify it. The more you lean into who you truly are, the more powerful you become. And watch this, when you embrace your originality, you give others permission to embrace theirs. Your courage becomes contagious. Your authenticity becomes a light that frees others from the prison of temptation. Some of you are waiting for the right moment to be yourself. You keep telling yourself, when I get more money, when I get more followers, when I get more followers, when I get more recognition, then I'll be me. No, you've got to start now. You've got to walk into every room as yourself. You've got to create, speak, and live from your authentic self right now. Because if you wait, you'll keep delaying. And before you know it, life will pass you by and you'll still be living as a copy. Stop comparing. Stop competing with somebody else's journey. Stop scrolling and wishing you were in someone else's shoes. You don't know the price they paid for those shoes. You don't know the sacrifices, the struggles, the scars behind their success. And even if you did, why would you want to walk in their shoes when you got your own pair designed specifically for you? Your path may look different, but it's yours. Your process may take longer, but it's yours. Your story may have twists and turns, but it's yours. And when you own it, when you embrace it, when you live it fully, you will find fulfillment in a way no copy ever could. Remember this, you are not replaceable. There will never be another you. There will never be another person with your exact combination of gifts, experience, and vision. That makes you priceless. That makes you rare. That makes you one of one. And the moment you accept that truth, the moment you stop chasing copies and start embracing your originality, you will step into a level of freedom, confidence, and power you never imagined. So today, make a decision. Stop hiding. Stop hiding. Stop pretending. Be bold. Be brave. Be authentic. Be you. Because at the end of the day, the copies fade, the fakes get exposed, but the original you will always last. Comparison is the killer of destiny. Let me say that again so it sinks in. Comparison is the killer of destiny. The moment you begin to measure your life against somebody else's, you take your eyes off your own path and you rob yourself of the energy you need to run your race. You can't focus on building your dream if your mind is constantly occupied with what somebody else has. You can't live in your own lane if your attention is glued to the lane next to you. And here's the truth, comparison never leads to growth. It only leads to jealousy, insecurity, and frustration. Think about it. Every time you compare yourself to someone else, what happens? You either feel like you're not enough or you start looking down on someone else to feel superior. Either way, it poisons your spirit. If you feel like you're behind, you get discouraged. If you feel like you're ahead, you get arrogant. Neither of those mindsets helps you fulfill your purpose. That's why comparison is dangerous. It doesn't matter if you compare yourself to someone better off or worse off. Both rob you of your peace and both distract you from your mission. Listen to me. Life is not a race against other people. It's a race against yourself. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. But too many people can't see their progress because they're too busy staring at someone else's journey. They're blinded by envy, consumed by someone else's highlight reel, and frustrated because their life doesn't look like what they see on social media. But let's be real. What you're looking at on those screens is not even the full picture. People post their victories, not their struggle. They show their success, not the sleepless nights. They show the car, not the debt. They show the smile, not the tears. And here you are comparing you behind the scenes to someone else's carefully staged performance. That's why so many people feel empty. They're comparing their real life with all its ups and downs to someone else's edited snapshot. And that comparison steals their joy. It convinces them that they're not enough, that they're behind, that they'll never catch up. But let me remind you of something. Your journey is not supposed to look like theirs. Your timing is not supposed to match theirs. Your path is not supposed to copy theirs. You were created with your own unique destiny. And the moment you accept that truth, the moment you stop looking left and right, you'll find peace in running your own race. Let me give you an example. Imagine two seeds planted in the ground at the same time. One grows into a sunflower, tall and bright within a couple months. The other is a mango tree, and it takes years before it bears fruit. Now imagine a mango tree comparing itself to the sunflower, feeling like it's a failure because it's not growing as fast. But what the mango tree doesn't realize is that when it does grow, its fruit will feed generations. The sunflower blooms quickly, but it withers quickly too. Both are beautiful, but their timelines are different. Their purposes are different. Their results are different. And that's the same with you. You can't compare your timeline to someone else's. You don't know what kind of fruit you're destined to produce. Some of you are sitting here frustrated because your breakthrough hasn't come yet. You're angry because someone else got promoted before you. Someone else got married before you. Someone else bought the house before you. And instead of celebrating your process, you're killing your destiny with comparison. But hear me, just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. Just because your path looks different doesn't mean it's wrong. Sometimes the delay is part of the design. Sometimes the waiting is what builds the strength for what's coming. You'll miss that lesson if you're busy watching someone else's journey. Comparison not only kills joy, it's focus. You can't build if you're distracted. You can't create if you're imitating. You can't grow if you're constantly glancing over your shoulder to see what others are doing. Destiny requires focus. Purpose requires discipline. And you can't give your best when your attention is divided. That's why you gotta stop comparing. Your destiny is too important. Your mission is too critical to waste time wishing you had what somebody else has. Let me tell you this too. Comparison makes you blind to your blessing. Some of you are sitting on answered prayers right now, but you can't even see it because you're looking at someone else's life. You've got clothes, but you're jealous of their designer brand. You've got a roof over your head, but you're jealous of their mansion. You've got food on your table, but you're jealous of their 5-star meals. You pray for what you have today, but because you're too busy comparing, you don't appreciate it. And if you can't appreciate what you have now, how can you expect more? Gratitude unlocks growth, but comparison shuts it down. You got to remind yourself daily that your story is yours. Nobody else has lived what you've lived. Nobody else has overcome what you've overcome. Nobody else has your exact combination of strengths, weaknesses, and experiences. That means nobody else can fulfill your destiny, only you can. And that destiny is too important to waste chasing after someone else's lane. You were designed for your own track, your own race, your own finish line. The truth is, when you stop comparing and start focusing on yourself, you'll discover freedom. You'll stop feeling pressured to keep up. You'll stop living for likes, for approval, for validation. You'll realize that the only person you need approval from is the person who created. And when you accept that, you'll start living authentically. You'll start chasing passion instead of popularity, purpose instead of applause, destiny instead of distraction. I need you to hear this. You can't be the best version of yourself while trying to be a duplicate of somebody else. If you spend all your energy trying to copy them, who's going to be you? Who's going to tell your story, create your vision, live your destiny? Nobody can do that but you. That's why comparison is so destructive. It convinces you to abandon your assignment and chase someone else's. And if you're not careful, you'll live your whole life as a shadow, never stepping into the light you were meant to shine. So here's the challenge. Run your race. Stay in your lane. Celebrate your progress, even if it feels small. Be grateful for your blessings, even if they don't look like somebody else's. Trust your process, even if it feels slow. Because your destiny is not tied to their journey. Your success is not determined by their success. Your timing is not dependent on theirs. What God has for you is for you. And no amount of comparison can speed it up or slow it down. Let me leave you with this. The graveyard is full of people who never fulfilled their potential because they wasted their lives comparing. They died with their music still in them, their books unwritten, their businesses unbuilt, their dreams unfulfilled, all because they were too busy wishing they were someone else. Don't let that be your story. Don't let comparison steal your destiny. Don't let jealousy rob you of joy. You've got to wake up every day and remind yourself, my race, my pace, my grace. I'm not in competition with anybody else. I'm not here to outdo them. I'm here to outdo yesterday's version of me. I'm here to grow, to evolve, to fulfill my calling. And as long as I stay focused on that, as long as I run in my lane, I can't lose. Of course, comparison might be the killer of destiny, but focus, gratitude, and authenticity are the builders of it. Your story is your power. Too often, people think their story disqualifies them, that the pain they went through, the mistakes they made, the scars they carry are things they should hide. But let me tell you the truth. Your story is not your weakness. Your story is your weapon. The very things you want to bury, the very chapters you want to skip, those are the parts that make you strong. Those are the moments that shape your character, built your resilience, and taught you lessons no book or classroom ever could. The world doesn't need a polished, fake version of you. The world needs the real you with your victories and your battles, your highs and your lows, your triumphs and your tears. Listen, people don't connect with perfection. They connect with authenticity. They connect with real stories of struggle and survival, of pain and perseverance. When you tell the truth about what you've been through, you give someone else the courage to believe they can make it too. When you stand up and say, I've been broken, but I didn't stay broken. I've been knocked down, but I got back up and lost. But I found my way. You give people hope. And hope is powerful. Hope is contagious. Hope is life-changing. Some of you are running from your story because you're ashamed of it. You think your failures disqualify you. You think your past makes you unworthy. But let me flip that for you. Your failures don't disqualify you. They equip you. Your past doesn't make you unworthy. It makes you relatable. Your scars don't make you damaged. They prove that you survived. And there's somebody out there right now who needs to hear that survival story. Somebody's waiting to know that's possible to overcome. Somebody's waiting to see living proof that failure is not final, that pain is not permanent, that their story doesn't have to end in defeat. Think about it. Every great leader, every great teacher, every great motivator, they all had a story. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't just preach about dreams. He lived through oppression. Nelson Mandela didn't just talk about freedom. He survived decades in prison. Oprah Winfrey didn't just talk about success. She came from poverty and trauma and still rose. Their power didn't come from pretending life was easy. Their power came from telling their story. And the same is true for you. You might not think your story matters, but it does. You might not think your experiences are significant, but they are. Somebody needs your voice, your truth, your testimony. The problem is too many people try to edit their story. They try to skip over the painful parts, hide the embarrassing parts, erase the messy parts. But the messy parts are where the magic is. That's where the lessons are. That's where the growth happened. That's where you found strength you didn't know you had. If you only share the shiny parts of your story, people will admire you, but they won't connect with you. It's the raw, unfiltered truth that builds connection. It's the honesty that builds bridges. It's the vulnerability that transforms lives. Your story, your guide. When you look back over your life, you'll see patterns. You'll see lessons. You'll see the hand of purpose shaping you, even in the moments you thought were pointless. That heartbreak taught you empathy. That failure taught you perseverance. That rejection taught you redirection. Nothing you've been through is wasted. Every chapter, even the painful ones, is preparing you for something bigger. But you won't see that if you keep running from your story instead of embracing it. Some of you are silent because you think nobody cares. But let me tell you, somebody is waiting to hear exactly what you've been through. Somebody's waiting for your words, your wisdom, your testimony. There are people out there right now drowning in the same struggles you survived. And they need to know survival's possible. They need to know there's light on the other side. And when you share your story, you become that light. You become the proof that they can make it too. Your story also keeps you grounded. It reminds you of where you came from, of the battles you fought, of the victories you earned. When you're tempted to get arrogant, your story humbles you. When you're tempted to give up, your story reminds you that you've survived worse. When you're tempted to quit, your story whispers, you've been here before and you didn't quit then. So why quit now? Your story is your anchor keeping you steady when life gets rough. Let me make it clear. Your story doesn't have to be pretty to be powerful. Some of the most powerful stories are filled with pain, brokenness, and imperfection. But that's what makes them powerful. If your story was easy, it wouldn't inspire anybody. If you never faced struggle, your testimony wouldn't mean much. It's the fact that you went through the fire and came out stronger that makes your story worth telling. Don't disqualify yourself because your story is messy. That mess can become your message. That test can become your testimony. That pain can become your power. And here's the beautiful part. Your story is still being written. Just because you've had failures doesn't mean your story ends in failure. Just because you've had heartbreak doesn't mean your story ends in heartbreak. Just because you've been knocked down doesn't mean your story ends on the ground. Every day you wake up, you have the chance to write a new page. Every decision you make, every challenge you face, every victory you earn, it's all part of the story. And you get to decide how that story unfolds. You don't have to be defined by your past. You don't have to be limited by your mistakes. Your story is still in progress, and you hold the pen. So stop being ashamed. Stop hiding. Stop thinking you're not worthy because of what you've been through. Own your story. Tell your story. Use your story. Because when you do, you not only empower others, you empower yourself. You reclaim your identity, you reclaim your voice, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of your past and start being a victor with a purpose. I need you to understand this. Your story has the power to heal. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to change lives. You might think, who will listen to me? I'm just ordinary. But ordinary people with extraordinary stories change the world. Don't underestimate the impact of your truth. One sentence from your story could be the lifeline somebody else is waiting for. One testimony from your past could be the spark that ignites someone else's future. At the end of the day, your story is bigger than you. It's not just about your healing, your growth, your success. It's about the lives you touch, the people you inspire, the legacy you leave. That's why you can't keep it to yourself. That's why you can't bury it under shame or fear. Your story is a gift, and gifts are meant to be shared. So embrace it. Embrace the beauty, the pain, the victories, the failure. Embrace the scars and the lessons. Embrace every chapter, even the ones you wish you could erase. Because those chapters shaped you, strengthened you, prepared you. And now it's time to take that story and use it to light the way for others. Your story is not a burden, it's a blessing. Your story is not your weakness, it's your strength. Your story is not your cage, it's your wings. And when you finally realize that, when you finally embrace it, you'll discover the true power you've had all along. Because your story, your unique, unrepeatable, irreplaceable story is your power. Stop chasing trends, start creating standard. That's one of the most important lessons you will ever learn if you want to live a life of significance. Because trends come and go. They're here today, gone tomorrow. People chase what's popular, what's flashy, what's hot in the moment, but when the season shifts, when the crowd moves on, they're left empty-handed. You were not born to be a trend chaser. You were born to be a standard setter. You were born to establish something that outlives you, something that carries weight, something that leaves a mark that time cannot erase. Look at society. Every day there's a new fashion, a new challenge, a new social media wave that people are running after. Yesterday it was one thing, today it's another, tomorrow it'll be something else. And people get caught up in this endless cycle of trying to keep up. They exhaust themselves chasing popularity, chasing attention, chasing validation. But here's the truth. Trends will always change. You can chase every single one and still never find fulfillment because your value doesn't come from being trendy. Your value comes from being true. When you chase trends, you're always behind. By the time you catch up, the world has already moved on. But when you create standards, you're always ahead, because you're leading, not following. That's the difference between success that fades and success that lasts. Followers follow trends. Leaders create standards. And you weren't made to be a follower all your life. You were made to stand up, to stand out, and to set a bar so high that others look at you and say, that's the way it's done. Think about the people you admire most. The ones who made history, the ones who shifted culture. They weren't trend chasers. They didn't spend their lives trying to fit in or mimic what was popular. They were bold enough to set a new standard. Michael Jordan didn't just play basketball. He redefined the game. He set a standard for greatness that generation still measure themselves against. Beyoncé didn't just sing songs. She set a standard for performance and excellence. Steve Jobs didn't just sell computers. He set a standard for innovation and design. These people weren't chasing what was popular. They were too busy creating what would last. Here's the danger of chasing trends. It dilutes your originality. When you run after what's popular, you compromise who you really are. You bend, you twist, you adjust yourself just to fit into a mold that wasn't made for you. And little by little, you lose your authenticity. You trade in your uniqueness for acceptance. You exchange your vision for validation. And at the end of the day, even if you will win, you lose because you're winning as somebody else, not yourself. Standards, on the other hand, require courage. Because when you set a standard, you go against the grain. You choose excellence when mediocrity is trending. You choose integrity when shortcuts are popular. You choose discipline when laziness is normal. And yes, people might laugh at you, criticize you, or even reject you for it. But in the long run, those same people will respect you. They'll look back and realize you were ahead of your time. You were rooted in something deeper than the temporary wave they were chasing. Stop thinking short term. Stop making decisions just to look good for a moment. Stop selling out your future for temporary applause. The trend will fade, but your character will remain. The wave will pass, but your legacy will last. That's why you gotta set standards. Standards in how you live, how you work, how you love, how you serve. Standards in your mindset, your discipline, your commitment. Standards that say, I don't care what's popular. I know who I am, and I know what I stand for. Look at your own life. How many times have you wasted energy chasing what other people said was cool, only to realize later that it didn't matter? How many times have you tried to fit in, only to discover that the crowd moved on without you? If you keep chasing, you'll always be reacting. But when you set standards, you'll always be creating. You move from being reactive to being proactive. You stop living by default and start living by design. Standards are what protect your destiny. Without standards, you'll settle for anything. Without standards, you'll compromise your values. Without standards, you'll accept relationships, jobs, and lifestyles that don't align with your purpose. But when you have standards, you filter out what doesn't belong. You say no to the things that distract you, so you can say yes to the things that define you. Let me tell you something important. People may not remember the latest trend, but they'll remember the standard you set. They won't remember what was popular on social media 5 years ago, but they'll remember the way you carried yourself, the way you lived with integrity, the way you treated people, the way you demanded excellence from yourself. Trends fade, standards remain. And listen, this doesn't mean you ignore culture. It doesn't mean you never adapt or adjust. But it does mean you don't let culture control you. You don't let what's popular dictate your purpose. You take what's useful, you learn what's necessary, but you always stay anchored in your standards. You always stay rooted in your identity. That's how you create a legacy that lasts. Some of you right now are exhausted because you're trying to keep up with everybody else. You're draining yourself trying to look like them, sound like them, live like them, live like them. And you don't even realize you're losing yourself in the process. Stop chasing, stop trying to win at somebody else's game. Play your own. Create your own. Create your own. Set your own rules, your own standards, your own bar. Because at the end of the day, you can never outdo somebody at being them, but you can always win at being you. Here's the truth. When you set standards, you may walk alone for a while. You may feel like nobody understands you. Nobody supports you. Nobody's walking with you. But that's okay, Because leaders often walk alone before the crowd catches up. Pioneers walk into uncharted territory before anybody else is brave enough to follow. Don't confuse loneliness with being wrong. Sometimes it's just the price of being original, and the reward is worth it. When you set standards, you attract people who respect you, not just people who like you. You attract opportunities that align with your vision, not just distractions that feed your ego. You attract longevity, not just popularity. And in the end, you create something that outlives you. You leave behind a legacy that others can build on. So stop chasing trends. Stop living for applause. Stop running after what's temporary. Stand up, set the bar. Create standards so high that they force you to grow. So strong that they protect your purpose. So consistent that people can look at your life and say, that's what excellence looks like. Because when the dust settles, when the crowd moves on to the next big thing, the one who set the standard will still be standing. And that can be you if you stop chasing and start creating. When we talk about being the original, one of the most powerful ways to embody that is by turning your pain into purpose. Every single one of us has gone through something. Heartbreak, rejection, loss, betrayal, failure, disappointment, and too often we let those experiences hold us hostage. We let them define us in a negative way, as if pain is meant to bury us. But the truth is, pain can be the greatest fuel for transformation, the raw material that shapes us into something extraordinary. If you want to be original, if you want to be the best version of yourself, you cannot waste your pain. You've got to take every setback, every scar, every tear, and turn it into strength, into wisdom, into motivation, into purpose. Pain, at its core, is an unavoidable part of life. You can't escape it. You can't wish it away. Everyone faces it in some form. But what separates the original from the copy is how they respond to pain. Most people let it crush them. They give up. They let bitterness take root. But originals, those who decide to live authentically, take that same pain and say, this won't destroy me. This will drive me. They allow the pain to be a teacher. They squeeze meaning out of it, asking not a why me, but a where can I learn? How can this shape me? How can I use this to serve others? That shift in perspective is what creates resilience. And resilience is the essence of originality. Think about it. Every story of greatness is a story of pain that was transformed. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years behind bars. Yeah, he came out with forgiveness in his heart and a mission to unite his nation. Oprah Winfrey endured poverty, abuse, and countless setbacks. Yet she became one of the most influential voices in the world, using her platform to inspire millions. Eric Thomas himself was homeless, a high school dropout, rejected and abandoned. But instead of letting that define him as a victim, he turned it into his testimony. Today, his pain is his purpose, fueling his speeches, connecting with audiences who see themselves in his struggles. That is the power of turning pain into purpose. When you embrace your pain, instead of running from it, you tap into a source of strength you didn't even know existed. Pain stretches you, it grows you, it forces you to dig deep and find out who you really are. Without it, you would never discover the full measure of your strength. Imagine a seed underground. It has to break apart, endure pressure, and push through the dirt before it can rise into a plant. Without that struggle, there's no growth. Without the breaking, there's no blossoming. In the same way, your pain is breaking you open to reveal your true potential, if only you allow it. The danger comes when you suppress your pain, when you pretend it doesn't exist, or worse, when you let it define you as broken. Pain isn't meant to define you, it's meant to refine you. Diamonds are formed under pressure. Gold is purified in fire. Likewise, your pain is the fire that burns away weakness, fear, and doubt, leaving behind something stronger, pure, and more valuable. Every time you endure, every time you rise after being knocked down, you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. That's where confidence comes from. Not from avoiding hardship, but from surviving it and realizing you are still standing. Now, turning pain into purpose doesn't just benefit you, it benefits everyone around you. When you share your story, when you use your scars as testimony, you give others permission to heal too. You show them that they are not alone, that what they're going through doesn't have to be the end of their story. Pain has a way of connecting people because it's universal. And when you have the courage to say, This is what I went through. This is what I survived. And this is what I learned. You become a beacon of hope. Hope. Your authenticity, your willingness to turn wounds into wisdom becomes a guide for someone else who is still in the dark. There is a reason why some of the most impactful leaders, speakers, and change makers are those who have endured the most suffering. They didn't read their strength in a book. They lived it. They didn't study resilience. They survived it. Their authenticity comes not from perfection, but from pain. And that's why their voices carry weight, because people can sense when your words are backed by real experience. Turning pain into purpose makes your life not just about survival, but about service. It transforms what was meant to hurt you into something that heals others. Of course, it's not an easy process. Turning pain into purpose requires courage. It requires choosing not to numb yourself, not to escape into distractions, but to confront what hurts and wrestle meaning out of it. It requires forgiveness, not necessarily for those who hurt you, but for yourself, so you don't remain chained to bitterness. It requires patience, because transformation doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it takes years before you can look back and understand why you had to go through what you went through. But trust this, nothing is wasted. Not a single tear, not a single heartbreak, not a single disappointment. Every painful experience has within it the seed of something powerful if you choose to water it, if you choose to let it grow. Here's the truth. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You don't always get to choose what happens to you, but you do get to choose how you respond. You can let pain paralyze you, or you can let it propel you. You can let it shrink you, or you can let it shape you. When you choose the latter, you reclaim your power. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and become the author of your story. That is the essence of originality. Living a life where even your struggles become your signature. So ask yourself today, what pain have you been running from? What story have you been afraid to tell? What wild mood have you been hiding because you thought it made you weak? Maybe that pain is the very thing that will give your life meaning. Maybe that wound is the key to your purpose. The very thing you thought disqualified you may be the thing that qualifies you to lead, to inspire, to serve. In the end, being original is not about pretending you have it all together. It's about owning your journey, scars and all, and choosing to let nothing go to waste. It's about making a decision that every obstacle will be fuel, every loss will be a lesson, and every pain will be turned into purpose. When you live this way, you stop asking, why me? And start declaring, try me. You stop hiding your scar and start showing them proudly as proof that you are stronger than whatever tried to break you. That's how you become the original. That's how you transform your life from a story of pain to a testimony of purpose. And when you do that, not only will you rise, but you'll lift others with you. You'll become a light in a world full of shadows, proof that no pain is wasted and every story can be redeemed. That's the legacy of someone who chooses to turn their pain into purpose. And that's the legacy you were born to create. Comparison is one of the greatest thieves of authenticity. When you begin to measure your worth by what others have, who they are, or what they've achieved, you unknowingly hand over the keys of your uniqueness to someone else. You start to believe that in order to be valuable, you must look like them, act like them, or live the life they're living. But here's the truth. The moment you compare yourself to others, you strip yourself of the power that comes from being the original version of you. Every single person is wired differently, blessed with a unique set of gifts, talents, passions, and perspectives. And when you dilute those gifts by trying to fit into someone else's mold, the world loses out on the real you, the you that was supposed to contribute something only you could give. Think about it. If you spend your time staring at someone else's lane, how can you possibly run effectively in your own? A runner who looks left or right during a race is distracted, unfocused, and loses momentum. The same applies to life. When your eyes are glued on someone else's progress, you're not paying attention to your own steps. And the dangerous part about comparison is that it never ends. There's always someone richer, smarter, faster, more successful, more talented, more attractive, or more influential. If you chase that game, you'll spend your entire life running in circles, always feeling less than, always measuring your value against standards that were never meant for you in the first place. But what happens when you break free from comparison? you start to see your journey differently. You begin to embrace the pace of your own progress, no matter how slow or unconventional it may look. You realize that your growth doesn't have to look like anybody else's because your purpose isn't theirs. Some people peak early. Some people are meant to shine in front of millions. Others are meant to impact a small circle in a deep and powerful way. Neither is better or worse. What matters is that you live authentically, honoring the assignment on your life without feeling pressure to copy someone else's path. Social media has made comparison even more dangerous because it's now easier than ever to see the highlight reels of other people's lives. We see the cars, the vacation, the perfect relationships, the job promotions, the awards, and the recognition. And without realizing it, we start to measure our behind the scenes by their highlight reels. But the truth is, what people present to the world is often not the full story. You don't see the struggles, the late nights, the tears, the setbacks, the fears they battle. If you're not careful, you'll start comparing your authentic reality to their carefully curated presentation, and you'll rob yourself of gratitude for what you already have. One of the biggest reasons comparison is so toxic is because it leads to envy. Instead of being inspired by others, you start resenting them. Instead of clapping for their wins, you feel threatened by them. Instead of focusing on building your gifts, you waste your energy tearing them down in your mind. And envy is a heavy burden to carry. It blinds you to your blessing and makes you feel like what you have is never enough. That mindset will suffocate your joy, your creativity, and your progress. The only antidote to that poison is to recognize that everyone has a lane and everyone has a time. What's meant for you will never pass you by if you stay faithful to your path. There's also another side to comparison. It can make you arrogant. Sometimes when people compare, they look for those they feel are below them to feel superior. They say, at least I'm not struggling like him, or at least I've done more than her. But that's still trap, because arrogance blinds you just as much as insecurity does. When you believe you've already arrived, you stop growing. When you measure yourself against others instead of your own potential, you limit what you could have been. The goal is never to be better than someone else. The goal is to be the best version of yourself. Breaking free from comparison means learning to celebrate other people's success without letting it diminish your own. It means clapping for them while still being confident in your lane. It means understanding that their victory doesn't cancel your opportunity. Someone else winning doesn't mean you're losing. It just means the world is big enough for multiple people to shine in their own way. When you adopt that mindset, life becomes lighter. You stop living with the constant weight of needing to measure up, and you start focusing on becoming who you were always meant to be. The process of overcoming comparison requires intentional practice. You must train your mind to shift from comparison to gratitude. Instead of asking, why don't I have what they have? Ask, what am I thankful for in my journey right now? Instead of thinking, I'm behind, remind yourself, I'm right on time for my purpose. Gratitude is the cure that keeps envy away and reminds you that you already have so much to work with. It's about watering your own grass instead of staring at someone else's lawn, because when you water what's in your, it grows. Another practical way to overcome comparison is to limit your exposure to things that trigger it. If scrolling through social media leaves you feeling inadequate, take a break. Protect your peace by curating what you consume. Fill your mind with things that inspire you instead of things that make you feel a less than. Replace jealousy with curiosity. When you see someone excelling, instead of saying, I'll never be like them, ask, what can I learn from their discipline, their habits, or their resilience? Where instead of letting comparison paralyze you, you turn it into motivation to improve yourself. Ultimately, you can't be the original if you're too busy comparing yourself to copies. The original you, the one who was designed with a specific fingerprint, a distinct voice, a one-of-a-kind perspective, gets lost when you drown in the noise of comparison. Your calling isn't to replicate what others are doing. It's to fulfill what only you can do. And the beauty of being the original is that you don't need validation from anyone else to prove your worth. Your existence is the proof. You were enough the day you were born, and you'll be enough until the day you leave this earth. So don't waste another moment trying to measure yourself by someone else's standards. Don't waste another day comparing your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. Your story is unfolding exactly as it should. Trust the timing, embrace the process, and focus on what's in your lane. Because when you stop comparing, you start creating. You begin to live fully, freely, and authentically, and the world gets to see the masterpiece it was always waiting for. The real, unapologetic, original you. When we talk about being the original, one of the deepest truths we must embrace is that authenticity is the bridge between who we are and who we are meant to become. Too many people are living lives where they are pretending, wearing masks, and trying to blend in because they believe fitting into the mold of others is safer, easier, and more acceptable. But here's the reality. When you lose your authenticity, you lose the essence of your power. You can be skilled, you can be talented, you can even work hard, but if you're not authentic, you will never truly be free. And freedom is the foundation of greatness. When you strip yourself of authenticity, you're essentially living someone else's life, chasing someone else's approval, and working towards someone else's dream. That if you're honest with yourself, you know that's not what you were created for. Think about it. The greatest people we admire in history, the ones whose names are etched into our memory, weren't the ones who followed the crowd. They were the ones who stood out. Martin Luther King Jr., Steve Jobs, Muhammad Ali, Oprah Winfrey. What do they all have in common? They dared to be authentic. They refused to water down who they were to make others comfortable. They refused to hide their true vision just because the world didn't understand it yet. That's what authenticity does. It makes you unapologetic about your truth. When you embrace authenticity, you no longer need validation from others to move forward. Your fuel comes from within. But the challenge is authenticity isn't easy. It requires courage. It requires you to stand in the face of judgment, criticism, and rejection. People will question you, doubt you, and even mock you when you decide to walk in your authenticity. That's the price of being original. That's the cost of refusing to imitate others. But here's the good news. Authenticity also attracts the right people, the right opportunities, and the right blessings into your life. Because when you are truly yourself, you resonate with those who are aligned with your purpose. You don't have to beg to be accepted. Your authenticity does the work for you. Now, let's take a closer look at what authenticity really means. It doesn't mean being stubborn or refusing to grow. It doesn't mean ignoring wisdom or shutting your ears to advice. No, authenticity is not about arrogance. It's about alignment. It's about ensuring that the way you live, the way you speak, the way you work, and the way you serve are in harmony with your inner truth. It means being consistent. What people see on the outside is a reflection of what's truly inside. Too many people are living double lives, one life in public and another in private. That's not authenticity. That's performance. Authenticity is when who you are in the dark matches who you are in the light. The danger of not living authentically is that it drains you. Pretending is exhausting. Faking confidence is tiring. Acting like someone you're not requires constant effort, and eventually it burns you out. That's why so many people feel empty, even though they appear successful. That's why so many are depressed, even though they seem to have everything. They've achieved a dream, but it wasn't their dream. It was someone else's. They reached the top of the mountain only to realize it was the wrong mountain. But when you live authentically, you never lose your joy because even if the journey is hard, you know it's yours. Even if progress is slow, you know you're aligned with your purpose. That alignment gives you peace, and peace is priceless. Authenticity also breeds trust. Whether it's in relationships, business, or leadership, people gravitate toward authenticity because it's rare. In a world full of filters, fake smiles, and curated images, authenticity shines like a diamond. People can feel it when you're real. They can sense it when your words are genuine. And once you earn that trust, doors open that talent alone can't unlock. Talent can get you attention, but authenticity keeps you respected. Talent might win you applause, but authenticity earns you loyalty. And in the long run, loyalty outweighs applause. Now let's get personal for a moment. Ask yourself, are you being authentic right now? Are you living in alignment with your values, or are you compromising to please others? Are you pursuing your real passion, or are you settling because you're afraid of failing? Are you speaking your truth, or are you biting your tongue because you don't want to stand out? These are uncomfortable questions, but they're necessary because the first step to living authentically is honesty. You can't fix what you refuse to face. And let me remind you, being authentic will cost you. It might cost you relationships. It might cost you popularity. It might even cost you opportunities in the short term. But in the long run, authenticity will give you something no imitation can: fulfillment. When you lay your head down at night, you'll know you lived on your terms, not somebody else's. You'll know you didn't compromise your values for temporary gain. And that sense of peace is worth more than anything money can buy. So how do you develop authenticity? You start by knowing yourself. Spend time in reflection. Identify your values, your beliefs, and your passions. Write them down. Ask yourself what really matters to you. Not what society says should matter. Not what your family thinks should matter, but what truly matters to you. Once you have clarity, commit to living in alignment with those values. And every time you feel tempted to compromise for approval, remind yourself, I wasn't created to be a copy. I was created to be an original. Another key to authenticity is vulnerability. You cannot be authentic if you're always hiding your flaws. Authentic people don't pretend to be perfect. They embrace their imperfections. They understand that their scars tell a story, and that story might be the very thing that inspires someone else. When you try to cover your flaws, you create distance between you and others. But when you embrace them, you create connection. People don't relate to perfection. They relate to authenticity. Finally, authenticity requires consistency. It's not something you practice one day and abandon the next. It's a lifestyle. It's choosing to be real in every situation, no matter how tempting it is to pretend. It's choosing to be honest, even when lying seems easier. It's choosing to stand out, even when blending in seems safer. It's choosing to remain true to your essence, no matter the cost. Well, no matter the cost. At the end of the day, authenticity is freedom. Freedom from the opinions of others. Freedom from the pressure to conform. Freedom from the fear of rejection. And when you taste that freedom, you'll never want to go back to pretending. That's why authenticity isn't just a choice. It's a responsibility, because the world doesn't need another imitation. It needs the original you. When you decide to be the original, one of the most powerful things you can do is to understand that your originality has the potential to leave a legacy far greater than yourself. Too often people live for the moment, seeking instant gratification, chasing validation, or simply trying to fit into trends that will fade as quickly as they appear. But when you choose originality, you're not just making a choice for yourself. You're planting seeds that can inspire and impact generations long after you're gone. The eighth keynote, leaving a legacy through originality, is about understanding that your life is not just about you. It's about how your choices, your courage, and your authenticity ripple outward to touch people you may never meet. Legacy isn't about how much money you leave behind or how many accolades are written in your name. Legacy is about how people remember you, what they say about you when you're gone, and more importantly, what you gave to them through the life you lived. Originality plays a central role here because people don't remember the copies, they remember the ones who dared to stand apart. Think about it. When you recall the great leaders, thinkers, creators, and dreamers of history, you don't remember the ones who mimicked others. You remember the innovators, the pioneers, the originals. From inventors to artists to leaders who changed the world, their originality is what carved their names into the hearts and minds of future generations. Being original allows you to become a point of reference. Your story becomes a light for others to follow, but that doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, being original often comes with resistance. Society doesn't always reward those who deviate from the norm right away. Many times people laugh, reject, or even attack ideas and individuals that are different. But history shows us that those very differences often become the source of admiration and influence later on. Take inventors like Nikola Tesla or visionaries like Steve Jobs. They weren't celebrated instantly for their originality. They had to endure doubt, rejection, and criticism. Yet because they held firm to their originality, they built legacies that are still shaping the world today. Leaving a legacy through originality requires courage. It means being willing to walk roads that others may fear. It means trusting your inner voice when everyone else is shouting at you to conform. And it also means being okay with the reality that not everyone will understand your path while you're walking it. But here's the beauty of it. Originality has a way of outliving the noise. People might dismiss you in a moment, but if you stay true, your authenticity will echo long after. You can't build a legacy by being a copy because copies fade, but the original always holds its value. One of the reasons originality builds legacy is because it inspires others to be free. When you live authentically, you unconsciously give others permission to do the same. Imagine a young person watching someone brave enough to live fully in their originality. They start to believe, if they can do it, maybe I can too. That's how legacy multiplies. It's not just about what you directly achieve, but about the chain reaction you set off in the lives of others. A song, a speech, a piece of art, a business idea, or even just the way you live with integrity. These things become timeless gifts that inspire courage in others. At the core of leaving a legacy through originality is responsibility. You have to understand that your life matters not only to you, but to everyone who looks to you for hope, guidance, and strength. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It means you have to be authentic. People connect with your realness, your struggles, your triumphs. When you live your truth, it makes you relatable. And when you're relatable, your story can reach people in powerful ways. Think about leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. or Mahatma Gandhi. They weren't flawless, but they were original in their approach to justice and humanity. Their originality became the foundation of legacies that continue to inspire the world decades later. Originality also allows your legacy to remain timeless. Trends fade. What was popular yesterday is forgotten tomorrow. But originality has a way of transcending time. That's why centuries later, people still quote philosophers, admire artists, and follow principles established by those who dare to live authentically. Their originality was not tied to a passing trend. It was tied to truth, and truth endures. When you are original, you align yourself with something greater than just the moment. You align yourself with principles and creativity that can last for lifetimes. Another important aspect of building a legacy through originality is ownership. Too often people live on autopilot, doing what others expect of them, living out someone else's script, and following paths they never truly chose. But you can't leave a lasting legacy living someone else's life. You have to own your originality. You have to take responsibility for your ideas, your passions, your contributions, and your story. Nobody else can walk your path for you, and nobody else can leave the legacy that you were designed to leave. Ownership of your originality makes your life meaningful not only in your own eyes, but in the eyes of everyone you impact. Leaving a legacy also means thinking generationally. Originality isn't just about what you can achieve today, but about what your life can mean tomorrow. The seeds you plant with your originality may not grow into full trees while you're alive, but they can bear fruit for generations. Think about the stories passed down in families, the traditions built by one person's courage, or the innovations that outlived their creators. Your originality has that kind of power. You may not see the full impact, but when you live authentically, you ensure that your influence will extend far beyond your years. But here's a critical truth. Originality isn't about being different just for the sake of it. It's about being true. Legacy comes from authenticity, not from rebellion without purpose. If your originality is rooted in truth, in passion, in love, and in the desire to serve others, then your legacy will be one that stands tall. People will remember you not for being strange or out of step, but for being true to yourself in a way that inspired and helped them. That's the kind of originality that becomes timeless. Finally, to leave a legacy through originality, you must be consistent. One act of originality is not enough. It's the accumulation of choices, the ongoing commitment to authenticity that builds a legacy. Day after day, choice after choice, you prove that you value originality over conformity, courage over fear, authenticity over pretense. And in doing so, you write a story with your life that others will want to remember, a story that others will want to tell, a story that will live beyond you. So, when you think about originality, don't just think about it as a personal advantage. Think about it as a responsibility. Think about it as a gift to the world. Think about it as the way you can leave behind something far greater than yourself. Because at the end of the day, money will fade, titles will be forgotten, and material possessions will vanish. But originality, The courage to be yourself and to live authentically will leave a legacy that can inspire people long after you've taken your last breath. That is the true power of being the original. Life has a way of testing us, of constantly asking whether we will shrink back into what is easy, what is convenient, what is popular, or whether we will stand firm in our authenticity, in our originality, and in the unique path we were designed to walk. Throughout this journey, I have spoken to you about the importance of being the original, about the courage it takes, about the battles you must face, and about the rewards waiting for those who choose to walk in their true identity. But as we come to a close, I want to leave you with something deeper than words, a conviction, a fire, an unshakable belief that you are not meant to be a copy, a shadow, or a watered-down version of anyone else. You were created with intentionality, and when you embrace that truth, you become unstoppable. The world will always try to define you. From the time you were born, people have been placing labels on you: too loud, too quiet, too skinny, too big, too smart, not smart enough. Every label is an attempt to fit you into a box that wasn't designed for you, but you don't have to wear those labels anymore. The conclusion of this message isn't just about reminding you to be the original. It's about empowering you to tear off every label that doesn't belong and to replace it with the one truth. You are one of one. No duplicates, no carbon copies, no imitations. And the moment you fully believe that, your life changes. Being the original isn't easy because originality attracts resistance. People resist what they don't understand. They resist what doesn't conform. If you choose to stand out, there will be people who laugh at you, criticize you, and doubt you intima. But let me tell you this, no one ever changed the world by being the same as everyone else. Every great innovator, every leader, every trailblazer you admire had to withstand the pressure of conformity. They had to say, I'd rather be hated for being myself than loved for being something I'm not. And the same choice stands in front of you today. Will you bend under the weight of society's expectation, or will you rise and stand firm in the truth of who you are? There's freedom in originality. Think about how exhausting it is to wear a mask every single day, to pretend to be someone you're not just to gain approval. Pretending drains you, but authenticity empowers you. When you decide to live as the original, you unlock energy, creativity, and joy that imitation can never give you. You no longer walk through life afraid of being exposed because there's nothing to hide. You're free to shine in the way you were meant to shine. That freedom allows you to wake up with purpose and go to sleep with peace. Let me make this practical. Originality doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you have it all figured out or that you never make mistakes. In fact, being original means owning your flaws, embracing your scars, and understanding that even the broken parts of your story have value. You don't have to cover them up. You can use them to inspire others. Some of the most impactful people in the world are those who stop pretending to be flawless and instead chose to share their truth. Your struggles, your failures, your pain, they are not disqualifications. They are part of your originality, part of the story that only you can tell. You might be thinking, oh, but what if people don't accept me? Let me give you the truth. Not everyone will. Some people will reject you simply because you refuse to be who they want you to be. But understand this, rejection is redirection. When the wrong people walk away and make space for the right people to walk in. The right people don't need you to perform. They don't need you to change. They will celebrate you for who you are. And when you finally surround yourself with people who love your originality, you will understand what real connection feels like. So the ending of this message is really the beginning of your new chapter. Today, you must choose. Will you keep living life as a photocopy, or will you finally step into the boldness of being the original? Will you keep hiding, or will you allow your uniqueness to shine? Will you silence your voice, or will you speak up and let the world hear the sound that only you can make? The choice is yours, but I promise you this. If you choose originality, if you choose authenticity, you will not only transform your life, you will inspire others to do the same. Think about the ripple effect. When one person chooses to be authentic, it gives others permission to drop their masks too. When one person dares to stand out, it makes it easier for others to step into their own light. Your courage to be original isn't just about you. It's about everyone you impact along the way. That's how movements start. That's how legacies are built. Not through imitation, but through the brave decision to say, I will be me unapologetically. And here's the final thing I want to leave with you. Your originality is your gift to the world. Imagine if every flower in a garden tried to look the same. Imagine if every star in the sky shined with the same brightness. Imagine if every voice sang the same note. The beauty of creation is in its diversity, in its uniqueness, in its originality. You are part of that beauty, and when you dim yourself, when you try to fit into someone else's mold, the world loses a piece of the brilliance it was meant to see. So my closing words to you are this: stop running from yourself. Stop doubting yourself. Stop believing the lie that who you are isn't enough. You are more than enough. You are exactly what this moment in history needs. The original version of you is powerful beyond measure, capable of overcoming any challenge, capable of creating impact, capable of leaving a legacy that will outlive you. Walk out of here today with confidence. Walk out knowing that no matter what the world throws at you, you will not bow to imitation. Walk out declaring that you will be the original in your family, the original in your community, the original in your generation. Because once you decide to embrace your originality fully, nothing can stop you. This is your time. This is your moment. Be bold, be brave, and above all else, be the original.